Hello. Welcome to Revelator Alpha Radio Podcast. Sorry about the jittery start there, the jittery intro. It's another radio podcast thing, and here I'm discussing all the latest motorcycle news. So the chat is open. It's going out live on Twitch and YouTube as well. So few new bikes or news of new bikes coming through. Some interesting stories out there for this midweek, for this St. Valentine's Day mass accelerator of motorcycles. Massacre of motorcycles. I don't know, whichever way you want to discuss it, or even thinking about it. But to say this is it's going to be a show. We'll see how far we get with it. And so there's two new bikes I really want to talk about later on in the show, as it were. But I suppose let's get straight into it. It's all about the news. What's in the news? What's going on now? Okay, what's in the news? You might add. Right, so I suppose I'm going to start off with some general news from all around the world that can affect the future of motorcycling as well. But then I'll dig into some of what's going on elsewhere as well. Let me just do that. Okay, so the first story here comes from the Economic Times of India, indiatimes.com. Basically saying, I talked about a story about how long ago? It was maybe a couple of weeks ago, I think, something like that. It was about how the Indian motorcycle show, they just previewed some motorcycles over there that could be E85 or E100 compliant. In other words, they're producing motorcycles, or will be producing motorcycles, that will be running on 85% or 100% ethanol, so biofuels, okay? Anyway, so what they're saying now in other markets, just have a look there, in other markets as well, there might be different variations on that. You might have, so obviously right now we're running at 5 and 10% here in the UK and around Europe, but that could easily go to 20, it could go to 30, 40, 50, so on and so forth. But the technology is already there to run at 85 or even 100% ethanol, which is a big challenge, I suppose, to the electric bike movement out there as well. So we've got to keep that in mind. Anyway, let's just get on to this story here. Let me just quickly take that away there. Basically, it's a Yamaha bikes to be E20 compliant by the end of this year. Drives a new range with traction control system as well. So, as I say, Japanese motorcycle manufacturers, not only are they looking at the EV route, but they're also looking at alternative fuels or making motorcycles that they have to run on biofuels as well. So that's the kind of backstory to this coming through. But Japanese two-wheeler major Yamaha on Monday said its entire motorcycle range in India, this is India, will be compliant with E20 by the end of this year. The company has also announced that its 149 to 155cc bike range in the country would now come with traction control. Okay, so this is, I suppose, Yamaha sort of stepping up and saying, well, actually, we've got our bikes here. We're going to make them E20 already, but we already know in the back of our mind that other manufacturers in India are already looking at, and even Japanese motorcycle manufacturers are already looking at E85, E100. And so whilst those might only be a handful of bikes, they're stepping this up. And I suppose I wanted to bring this story to everybody here because actually this is a good demonstration of companies evolving and bringing to market and phasing in, let's say, different bikes, different capability bikes running on different fuels, and also looking at the two challenges or the parallel pathways, if you like, towards the EV route, electric vehicle route, or alternative fuels route as well. So I think in India, for some reason, there seems to be a lot of movement here, and part of the reason here is that the motorcycle manufacturers in India, those who are Indian manufacturers, and also I believe those who are importers of motorcycles or who have manufacturing or assembly plants in India, part of their mandate from the Indian government is to not only start producing or developing EV bikes, but they've also got to be producing motorcycles. And I'm not sure if this extends into motor vehicles in general, but motorcycles with alternative fuels. So they're running two paths. So maybe this is why in India at times it seems it's like at the cutting edge of things a little bit. Cyborg, hello, hey, thank you very much. I'm very well, thank you today. Just a little bit cold. I was out and about this morning, had a bit of business to do, as it were, and got back, got a little bit dried off. It's very foggy here this morning, so got dried off, and then sort of updated the website, couple of new articles on there this morning, and then started preparing for the show just for you guys. But anyway, so that's the first story coming out of there. As I say, I wanted to bring it to you because I think it just shows the progression, the evolution, and this is going to be replicated in other countries as well. I'm sure of it. You're going to see this more and more. Okay, let's go on to the next story. This is a story which I thought was I brought it to his attention a couple of weeks ago that the Kawasaki, they've just released this Ninja ZX4RR. This essentially it's a miniature. It's not a miniature sport bike. It's just a scaled down sports bike. But since that time, so many publications and websites and everything are actually saying how good this bike is, but also what it could mean for the coming year, for the next year, 2 years, in terms of sales, in terms of how it changes people's thinking about riding, if they're going to go riding big bikes or smaller bikes. Will different people of different body types, will they naturally progress to something like this? Is it a case of it's more younger people, or is it more females, or is it more whatever it is, are they going to be going from that? Let's say you might have a change in style, or you might have a change in riding habits, or you still want to have the same sort of sports bike, but you just don't want the massive power. Then all of a sudden, they think, well, maybe I'll downsize to a 400cc. And this is where, a lot of these publications now, they really are looking at this bike as having sports bike kind of pedigree, or kind of thinking behind it. And they're really saying how great this bike is, and also how well it could do over the next 12 months as well. So let me just put that there again. Yeah, so this is that Kawasaki bike. It, as I said in the previous show, it looks really great. I mean, if sports bikes are your thing, I think the style, I've always liked Kawasaki sports bikes anyway, but I think if sports bikes are your thing, then this is something to think about as well. By all means, you can always follow me on the socials as well. You help support the channel by Patreon and PayPal. And obviously, you can subscribe, or you can just watch and just enjoy. It's entirely up to you. I always put it up there as well. The chat is coming through. Yeah, I got a few messages coming through. Thank you for joining, by the way. I'd say I didn't really advertise this show today. I think I'm going to be a bit more stealth-like, a bit more gangster, as the kids would say, and just come in at short notice. It kind of fits in with the way I do things, really, these days. A lot more. I was supposed to actually put a notification out this morning, but literally I was just updating the website, put a couple of stories out there. A couple of those stories are going to feature here in this show later on as well. Some interesting bikes or potential coming bikes as well. So, but I just ran behind. I was running behind. Then I had to scoot away for a meeting first thing this morning. So one thing or another, and all on my day off, would you believe? All on my days off. But there we go. Right. So Let me just get back to that. Right, so the next story here is a nice little. This is kind of a nice little story for me. Not necessarily a nice story for me, but it just. I like the fact that some publications, this is topspeed.com, you could say this is a bit of an old story or it's a bit of an old argument, but I like the fact that they're still writing about it, they're still entertaining about it, and they're saying for between Indian and between Harley Davidson, which is the best bagger, whether it's a street glider or whether it's the Chieftain. And again, they're much of a muchness, aren't they? They're very, very similar. And it's a well-written article as well. So as I say, I quite like this from Top Speed here. They're going through here. They go through all the figures, the riding styles, the techniques, brakes, suspension. It just goes on and on and on. I just want to zip down to where, if I could read out their conclusion. Right, here we go. Right, so this is basically the same pattern supply when comparing the 23 Indian Chieftain Dark Horse Limited to 23 Harley Davidson Street Glide Special, both bikes that are starting prices, sort of similar prices. Obviously, Indians are just a little bit more expensive, but they're loaded with more features, where Harley Davidson's a little bit less expensive, slightly, but then you start adding everything onto it and it becomes more and more. Some people may want more performance out their touring bikes, while others believe having style is more important. If you're torn between choosing between these two bikes, go out and take both for a test ride and find out for yourself. Regardless of which one you pick, it's a win-win decision. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I was hoping for a bit more of a conclusion there, but in all fairness to this publication, that's exactly how I would have written it as well, in many ways, because I look at the Harley Davidson as possibly being more pleasing on the eye in certain design cues, but I see the Indian as being better equipped. The Indian is a little bit more expensive on certain bikes, this is. Not all bikes. And then Harley Davidson, it's about the same price really, but then you start adding features or start adding things just to bring it up to spec of an Indian, and then you end up paying a lot more as well. So I think it's one of these things, it's what you personally prefer. But a good little story. I mean, go check it out, topspeed.com. Okay, so this is the next one. Okay, this is quite an interesting story. If you're a Harley Davidson fan, or if you're into sort of the corporate side of it, and what you think the company will be doing or how well they're doing, that kind of thing. So this is from who's this from? Forbes. They're basically saying that Harley Davidson, obviously, as we know, they're doing really well from a financial point of view, from a stocks and shares point of view last year, 2022. But they're kind of projecting to see what they're going to be like in 2023. And I've kind of written about this and said this in previous shows as well. Many people hang their hat on the fact that Harley Davidson have increased their stock price this year, and then said, oh, well, how brilliantly Harley Davidson are doing. But it makes the point here, and this is kind of what I've been making as well, saying Harley Davidson stock had a solid 2022, rising about 10% over the year. Obviously, it fluctuated up and down, right? Faring better than the broader automotive sector. So in terms of overall, it's done really well. And also the S&P 500, which remained down by roughly 19%. Like most other auto players, Harley too was weighed down by a host of external factors, including supply chain issues, so on and so forth. However, there have been a couple of factors which helped the stock outperform. They're saying outperform, it's done a lot better than they thought it was. They're saying that the hardwire strategic plan has resonated with investors. Okay, well, investors, all they're after is money. Okay, so if there's profit to be made and stuff like that, they're fine. So basically, under this plan, the company has prioritised growing its earnings per share by low double digits through 2025 by focusing on higher margin motorcycles, including touring bikes, logic. So in other words, investors like it because they're selling bigger, expensive bikes only and not the smaller bikes, right? And it basically said, moreover, the 2022 results are also stronger expected, company reaffirming its 2022 outlook between 5 and 10% growth. So, and it's just going on, and the basic dividend. So it's very appealing for investors right now because they've done so well the last year or so, but they've put focus on giving the shareholders money, right, and pay that. So. It didn't really say much else. No, hold on. Well, they're basically saying that, you know, even the following last year's gains, Harley's valuation appears reasonably compelling at current levels of roughly $45 per share, considering that it trades at just about 9 times forward earnings. Harley's dividend yield about 1.4. Multiple indicators point to a recession in the near term, with Federal Reserve. Okay, we value hog stock at about 55 per share. Okay, so they're saying, basically auto stocks typically see meaningful drawdowns during recessions, and this could hurt Harley. Okay, so they're basically saying, you know, as I've been saying in recent terms, is that they're doing well. They've exceeded expectations, but actually this coming year could be a really challenging year, not only just for them individually, but the whole automotive sector as well. And you know, recession obviously looming, and these kind of things always have a bit of a delay coming through, don't they? So again, if you're interested in that, you know, go check it out. The problem with these financial reports or financial indicators is that it changes daily. Just like the stock price, you know, it goes up and down, and one day you get a positive view, one day you get a negative view. It's just a weird one. Okay, also the next story here. Oh, our friend, your friend of mine, our friend, the man, the myth, the teabag, Jason Momoa is in the news again, riding a Harley Davidson Pan America, or a very tricked out Harley Davidson Pan America, and this is all for the latest Fast and Furious film. Fast X or Fast 10, and it's basically just going through that. He's been in the media, obviously. There's, you know, they did the live launch of the premiere of the film during the Super Bowl halftime show, I believe it was as well. Bits and pieces are there. So starting out as a movie focusing on America's underground racing scene, Fast and Furious Universe is obviously, it's the problem with the Fast and Furious. I kind of watch them. I will watch them, but they just got ridiculous over the years, and it's just got more and more ridiculous. I much preferred it when it was just that first film, or there's even the second film, or even the third film that we're about, the Tokyo one, because that was about car racing. It was about, you know, that underground street racing. Then it just got it got into international espionage and all this sort of stuff, going into outer space in a car, and you know, jumping Grand Canyons attached to a cable, and it's just, you know, nonsense. Anyway, so who knows? I mean, it could be just as ludicrous, or it could be something else, but. I saw an interview with Vin Diesel the other day, and he's saying how this Jason Momoa brings another quality to the typical villain. So, you know, hey, you know, go watch it if that floats your boat. Okay, this next story here, this is about the king of the baggers, basically, starting off in the United States. Motor America, Rispoli, Gilliam Racing, Vance and Hines, Harley Davidson, and the king of the baggers. Basically just a view of what's going on in that sector. This is from roadracingworld.com. Quite an interesting read. February 13th, Vance & Hines continues its run of the Championship of Motors American King of the Bagger Series in 2023 with experienced riders and a crew coming off a championship in flat track racing. James Rispoli, and Helen Gillim, had previously ridden for Vance and Hines and Mission Harley Davidson team. So basically, this is the Vance and Hines team just putting out what they're going to come out for this year as well. So, you know, it's one of those things that I sort of paid a little bit more attention to this the last couple of years, King of the Baggers. I interviewed, well, not interviewed, that's wrong. I spoke to the lead mechanic, one of the lead mechanics of the Harley Davidson team, factory team, in November, just at one of the motorcycle shows. I'm sure a lot of people did, because he was stood there speaking to lots of people for a week as well. And yeah, quite interesting, really. I was kind of interested in what they had to say about the bikes, about the performance, about how many laps they could realistically do. You know, how was their power comparable to super bikes and all that sort of stuff. And yeah, it was interesting. Okay, this is another story here from Cuba, would you believe? And I don't know why, but I found this really interesting. Cuba's got quite a big underground Harley Davidson, a kind of Harley Davidson fan club, really, or a following. So here we go. It talks about a different guy. Cuban Carlos Pipo Sablon spared no effort to join up with his fellow Harley Davidson enthusiasts. He got up at 4 a.m. to drive or ride his electric blue Harley, 660 kilometers, 410 miles over 13 hours, despite fuel shortages to be there. Cuba's Harley Davidsons are not as well known as the island's nations of collection of vintage American cars, which you kind of see those old Buicks and things like that sort of rolling around. But they also contribute to a palpable feeling of stepping back in time. If you know anything about, obviously Cuba, obviously all the embargoes because of Castro and everything like that, so they were kind of stuck in a time warp. So they had to, make do with what they had, and use cars from back in the day and just redevelop them, put new engines in, or they're running cars with boat engines, bikes with boat engines as well. It's really interesting to see that there's Harley Davidsons that were there, and they're basically just they've been working on them and putting them on the road for years and years and years. So I just never envisaged that Cuba would be a bike nation as well. Well, I suppose they're not really. It's a car nation, but they are definitely stuck in the past for that kind of thing. But it's interesting to see that obviously there's bikes there as well that have a similar kind of thing as well. Okay, next story here. Okay, this is kind of another story. I'm not going to go into it too much, but this is basically saying that Harley Davidson, if you want to make an investment, then it's obviously up to you, of course, but read it. This is from Simply Wall Street stocks, and it's basically saying if you want to invest them, they might be a good shout for an investment. I personally don't think they're a good investment. That's just my take. I'm not a financial advisor or anything, because I think if you wanted to make money on their stock price, you should have bought them later on earlier last year when they were pretty well down. They were down to sort of $29 or something, and you would have made a killing at $46 if you bought a lot of stock, of course. But if you hadn't, then it is. Harley Davidson here. I don't know why we're coming out with all the Harley Davidson stories. I'm just quickly running through it. I got a press release on this as well. They're obviously 2023. They're launching all their brand new Harley Davidson clothing collections. Standard stuff. We know this sort of stuff, right? I won't go into that, but you can go to anywhere. This is a really funny story. Okay, this comes from the metro.co.uk. Basically, I have to laugh. I have to. Hold on, before I get into this story, I have to laugh. It's not because I condone any kind of stealing or theft in any way, shape, or form. I deplore it, and people who steal motorcycles, especially, are the lowest form of scum, or anybody who steals off children or steals off elderly, all that sort of stuff. You can imagine I'm totally against it, right? However, I'm also anti anybody attacking the police or attacking emergency services or anything like that. However, sometimes you just got to have a laugh. You just got to laugh at the situation that's presented before you. Okay, so let me just get the story back up. Here it is. It's saying a copper's bike is stolen in English speak, while he's on a training course about stolen vehicles. this policeman's motorbike is stolen while he's on a course about stolen vehicles. They got the CCTV here of these obviously people nicking his bike. In today's lesson about the definition of irony, it is, isn't it? It's ironic. Oh dear, police officer's motorbike has been taken by thieves while he was attending a course about stolen vehicles. The unnamed police constable, I bet he's unnamed, yeah, from Warwickshire was left red-faced. I feel sorry for him. But at the same time, it's hilarious. While on a 3-day training session with a colleague in Swindon on Saturday, so it happened in Swindon. I was in Swindon first thing this morning, actually. His unfortunate circumstances were tweeted by his colleagues who said, "The irony isn't lost on us. One of our rural crime team officers had his personal motorbike stolen." Okay, it's his personal motorbike stolen while he was attending a stolen vehicle examiner and identification course. Unfortunately, 3 unknown offenders stole the officer's bike at a hotel in the Swindon area during the early hours of the morning. Fortunately, the officer had fitted a disc lock, steering lock, immobilised, and 3 separate trafficking devices to the bike that immediately disabled the bike on it being moved. The bike was recovered a short distance away, but had suffered a bit of damage. Well, there you go. They couldn't steal it, so they're going to try and kick it and knock it over, aren't they? Its electronic safety device had prevented the thieves from getting away with the bike. Well, yeah. After securing the bike, both officers attended the final day of training. There we go. I bet everybody else is having a right laugh about that. We're happy to report that both passed the course, making accredited stolen vehicle examiners for the team and Warwickshire Police. They added, "No one is immune to criminality, but let's make it as hard as possible for offenders to get away with our pride and joy." Oh dear. I just thought that was a funny story, but there we go. So yeah, I mean, crikey, you put all the security devices on it, and that's probably stopped them from nicking it. But in my experience, what they used to do back in the day was they used to, get your bike, and they used to quickly ride some kind of van next to it. They used to push your bike over onto a mattress of some kind, like a soft bedding, and about 4 or 5 guys used to quickly just drag the bike up into the back of the van, and that's it, they're away. So obviously if you're just going to try and steal the bike, then here's another story here. This is from uknews.yahoo. Biker with naughty boy plate mocked by police after 130-mile-an-hour chase. In other words, so the rider was spotted with the ironic and illegal registration plate as he rode through Bolton, Greater Manchester, in the early hours of Monday. So he's basically riding around on this sports bike. I don't even know what it is. And he's got a naughty boy, right? Well, yeah, he wants to be a naughty boy. He probably wants to be a bit of a rude boy, as they say. And basically, they've nicked him. Basically, a biker with a number plate, reading naughty boy, was arrested for firearms offences as well. Well, there you go. After leading police on a 130-mile-an-hour chase through busy roads, the rider was spotted. But when police tried to stop him, he sped off towards Salford, which is in Manchester, hitting speeds of 100 miles an hour. The rider was trapped by the police helicopter infantry, brought to a stop when motorway patrol officers used a stinger device. He was arrested on suspicion of multiple offences. I think he would have been arrested for a lot more than just suspicion. That's usually, isn't it, when the police they arrest somebody. They got somebody banged to rights. They can't say, "We've nicked him. We've arrested this person for stealing that purse or stealing this." It's always the suspicion. He's alleged to have done it until we can prove it in a court of law, of course, which I suppose is absolutely right. But if he's a wrong 'un and he's just stolen something, then but anyway, the naughty boy, it was a very naughty boy, wasn't he? And he did get there we go. Well, that's I suppose he got his comeuppance then, didn't he? What can you say? Okay, here's another story here. I'm just going to bring you up with a little bit here. This is motorcycle race in Northern Ireland cancelled, Brexit blamed. The Motorcycle Union of Ireland have announced that all road racing and short circuit racing in Northern Ireland has been cancelled due to spiralling insurance costs. Wow. Riding insurance costs have been an issue across all the island in recent years, but has mainly affected the smaller road racing events. However, a hammer blow to the sport of motorcycle racing in Northern Ireland, all events, including the country's largest outdoor sporting meeting, the Northwest 200, has had to be called off for 2023. It is reported the Northwest 200 contributed 17 million to the local economy last year. Wow. In a statement released by the MCUI, it says the cost of public liability insurance become unsustainable for event organisers and clubs, with the BBC report suggesting a figure of over £400,000 having been quoted, which should have seen costs triple. Wow. Road racing has survived for 100 years in Ireland, but funding issues have become more prominent, with the Ulster Grand Prix the most notable race have been affected since poorly attended in 2019. Statement, it basically just goes on and on and on. Oh, what a shame. What a shame. This is one of those things where you've got to have local government or stuff like that to kind of step in and, you know, do something about these kinds of things, where you'll just get letting insurance people or insurance companies dictate what can and cannot happen. And this is not just in this event here that I've seen it. I've seen it across, or I've heard stories across lots of different events for the last sort of 2 or 3 years. Obviously, this is not. It's not just Brexit. I mean, I don't know why they're calling it Brexit. I haven't read it intently, or in all fairness. But I'm sure it's a mixture of Brexit. It's a mixture of COVID, the lots of different things in the economy and everything like that. But lots of events, bike rallies, that kind of thing. Either just slowly starting to come back on board, or some never. They had to cancel. They'll probably never start up again. You know, so some are just about scraping by. Some are kind of making a loss. Some have just really downscaled the event to, you know, whereas before it might attract a few hundred, now it's attracting very few numbers. Maybe before they would have like a weekend event, they'd have camping, they'd have a bar. Now they probably sometimes they just have a day event, you know, so it's kind of changed a lot. And, you know, you might see this year, next year, it kind of regaining, as it did last year. Quite a few events started to put on things as well. Events again, but it'd be interesting to see what happens for the next for this year really. But it's such a shame that it's the Northwest 200 and all the racing, you know, Northern Ireland, massive racing area, you know, the people over there definitely love their racing, and obviously the local laws allow it to happen as well, similar to the Isle of Man TT as well, whereas lots of other places won't allow it. So you kind of think, well, the problem is you could say we're going to take this to a track instead, but that's not road racing. Road racing is you're racing on the road. They close off the road, they section off the road, and they do it. So it's a real shame that this has come to this because of you know, insurance costs and stuff like that. I mean, basically what it's saying. I just want to see what's this. For the casting, ceasing involvement. Yes, it's basically saying because the statement added that the Motorcycle Island's old broker had put it into contact with 3 years as they currently trying to persuade insurance companies to take us on. So I think it was Allianz who were the old provider. Yeah, the old provider. We received an email from our new broker saying insurance company Allianz, who we have been covered with for years would no longer insure us, as they were no longer covering motorsport. So Allianz basically dumped them because they're not covering, and then all the other providers were just charging crazy money. Discussing racing. I'm still trying to find what's this got to do with Brexit though. Why is the absolute disaster? Unless I'm missing something completely, I don't know what this has got to do with the rising costs. Unless they're blaming everything on Brexit, if they're blaming everything, I would say, yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm not sure why that would be there. Okay, next story here. This is an interesting story, and the story is basically from Bristol, where this guy, what is he? He is a British inventor, develops electric motorcycle which folds up to the size of a suitcase. The problem is, I've already seen this with like folding motorcycles that fold up, and it's not into a suitcase. It folds up, and you've got the wheels that come underneath, and you wheel it around like a large suitcase on wheels, basically, so that you can fold it up and it's still heavy, but you can sort of wheel it around. So let's say if you rode it to a train station or something, you could, I suppose, wheel it onto the train, and then stand by it, and it takes up less space, right? But I've seen this with petrol ones, and I think Honda do one as well. The Honda did one back in the day, years ago in the 70s. So I think it's a bit misleading when they say it's a new design. I think this might be new design, or he's invented it, but I think the concept has been around for a long time. So, but anyway, this is from bristolpost.co.uk. Here's another story. Basically, the legendary racer Paul Smart, who died in a road traffic collision in October 2021. Basically said the guy who knocked him over on his bike has pleaded guilty and is obviously being prosecuted for that one as well. I won't go into the story that much, but you can see that on Visor Down. Okay, right. So this is the let's just talk about this one, because this is the interesting one. There's quite a few ones here, but let me just have a look here. Yeah, let me just start with this one first of all. Okay. So Buell have returned, and they've let me just start this again here. Hold on, I'm trying to find it. Nah, there we go. Right, I'm trying to bring this into you. So Buell have returned with a brand new motorcycle. So Buell, as you know, used to be part of Harley Davidson under Eric Buell. Then the rug got pulled from beneath them, or Eric Buell this is. Then they disappeared into the ether. Then Eric Buell sort of started up again, but then parted waves with Buell, and he went off to form Fuel, the electric motorcycle company, who's doing rather well in the startup capacity. But Buell has kind of carried on his name and his sporting intentions, as it were, and they've released quite a few bikes or programs for new bikes with this V-twin 1190cc. And now they've announced that they've teamed up with a partnership between Buell and Roland Sands to bring this brand new motorcycle, this super cruiser, and it's supposed to come for 2023. So let me put a couple of these pictures up here. So there you can see this is from Motorcycle News, okay, but it's lots of pictures here. So Buell here, this is the Roland Sands, and it's basically saying that this new bike, Buell and Roland Sands are claiming that this new motorcycle is it's worth 175 horsepower. It's worth 175 horsepower, and it's a super cruiser, and it's they're not saying exactly when it's going to come out, but they're also saying that it's probably going to come out in 2025. Now, if you look at this bike, it definitely reminds me, it definitely has styling cues from a Roland Sands bike, but this reminds me of a bike that's got, it's got a Dyna written all over it. It's got one of those, straight up display riders written all over it. It's kind of got those lines. But look at the rear swing arm. That looks really nice. Look at the rear monoshock on it as well. So they've kind of taken little bits from the past, bit of an exposed frame there as well. This lovely V-twin engine on there, liquid cooled as well. I mean, it looks awesome. You know, the high Kraus bars, I think they look like, well, they're very similar to Kraus bars as well. It just looks really good. I would be pleased as punch to be riding one of these from Buell, as I say. And let's just have a look at some of the details here. It's an 1190cc liquid, 1190cc liquid cooled V-twin. Also, they make a couple of other bikes: a Hammerhead 1190 Superbike and the 1190 SX Super Naked, and the Baja Dune Racer. But the Baja Dune Racer will only come out for the public in 2025. Also, they got the Super Tourer, which is going to come out in 2025 as well. Capable of up to a claimed of 182.5 brake horsepower at 10,600 in some other applications. But as I say, this is like 175 for this motorcycle here. What else is there? Yeah, and it's saying here the Super Cruiser Project full exhaust system featuring on this launch model should get most from its twin pot soundtrack, but don't expect it to pass Euro regulations anytime soon. Yeah, okay. So the pictures you're seeing here are of the Buell, the Super Cruiser, as its kind of prototype phase. So obviously with the exhaust being a very short exhaust, you know, that's not going to pass emissions, so there will be some changes there. But just from an aesthetics point of view, ignore the exhaust, it looks really nice. That looks a really nice bike, and it's it's got great lines. I really like it. Speaking about the build, Buell CEO Bill Melvin said the market is full of American manufacturers known mostly for big, heavy bikes, not fast, hot ones like the famous V-twins of the 30s. Our Buell Super Cruiser will be the hottest bike on the market. Period. Bold claims indeed. Well, I mean, so if the CEO Bill Melvin, what's his name? Yeah, if the CEO, Bill Melvin, is basically slating the rest of the American motorcycle production as being too heavy, too cruisery, and he's saying, hey, look, we've got a bike here that's going to be fast, it's going to be light, it's going to be a super muscle bike. Well, again, I kind of come back to the Harley-Davidson Dynas, you know, that people are tuning up and they still ride those bikes, and it's kind of like that. Yeah, obviously the Dynas are all air cooled, but it's got very similar lines, that you've got a super muscle bike here with those kinds of aesthetics as well. So I just think it looks really great, I've got to say. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. Here's another picture of it here. It just looks really nice. It looks really nice, liquid cooled. Unlike many traditional bikes in the class, Buell here are using 17-inch wheels, and it's basically the same as the Hammerhead Superbike. So it's great on handling, great on suspension, and also obviously the power delivery as well. But also the riding position is obviously more upright, and it's more designed for that street riding. And I'm sure if it comes in on price as well, it's going to attract a lot of those riders who, you know, were really still sticking with their Dynas as opposed to going with the M8. But some of those guys have actually transferred over to the M8s, especially with the low rider S. I think this could give them a run for their money. Let's have a look here. What else is it saying? Other bits borrowed from Buell's sporting option including forks. Yeah, so what they've done here, they've taken elements of the other bikes that they produce, let's say like the forks and the swing arms, so on and so forth, and they've actually put it onto this bike, and that's hardly surprising, really, because they're a relatively small manufacturer, and they're going to make a generic platform, if for want of a better word, but they're going to take elements that work off different bikes and put them onto this new bike, this Super Cruiser. So that doesn't surprise me at all. See what else they've done here. I mean, just looking at the pictures here, you get a real sense of that front tire as well. So you get a single 386mm disc and an 8-piston caliper that wraps around the rim of the front wheel. Wow. Yeah, I mean, just looking at this picture, you've got a huge front disc there, and it's got an 8-piston caliper that provides that stopping force, and that's just insane, isn't it? Amazing. So this system here, it's supposed to, well, it's long adopted by Buell, and they claim allows for lighter spokes as it keeps the braking forces away from the central hub. Okay, so this disc being so big, because it's not centralized power, it's actually on the periphery of the wheel, they don't have to have big heavy duty spokes on the wheels. Okay, that sounds really interesting to me, I have to say. But you know, some of the details here, basically the Buell Super Cruiser highlights, if you will, or the Buell Super Cruiser specs, limited specs, which we have now, of course. It's 1190cc. It's a liquid-cooled 72-degree V-twin. Power in the region about 172 horsepower. Weight in the region about 204 kilos. And the price, well, we actually have no idea. But definitely one to watch. And Buell have been sort of lurking in the shadows, I know, for a while. Many people thought they'd just gone completely bankrupt. I've done quite a few stories in the past of Buell. Actually, no, they're still around, but not many people are aware of them. But they are producing bikes, not many bikes, of course, but this could capture the imagination of many a rider out there. And it's really going to depend on what the price is going to be on this bike. But you would imagine if they can produce these in any kind of numbers, this is the bike to go for. This is the bike to go for. I would love something like this. I've got to say, I would love. I mean, I'm a fan of the Diners, but I'm a fan of that club sort of style, or that street racing style, or that style of bike, which, you know, you had high horsepower, but you also had a very light bike, if you can call a Harley Davidson light as well. But something like that, and this kind of fits the bill for me. So I spoke to Roland Sands a few years ago, actually, well, as in an email conversation and an email interview it was, and I've always been a fan of Roland Sands and what he stood for. He comes from Performance Machine, of course, a racing background as well. Then he started producing his own stuff, but in his heart of hearts, he's still a racer, and he still likes racing applications. So it doesn't surprise me that he's teamed up with Buell here, who've got racing intentions as well, or street racing intentions, and they've collabed here to form this bike here. It'd be really interesting to see what the final design will be and what it will look like when it comes for street preparation or street production as well. But there we go. That's the Buell Super Cruiser coming at you, well, 2025 or before. We'll just have to wait and see. Right, the next story is this Brabus, right? So Brabus have teamed up with KTM, and they have produced this KTM 1300 R Edition 23. And it looks like something insane. So Brabus are a automotive tuning specialist. They've been around in Europe for years and years and years. But essentially, they tune motor cars, really, and high performance motor cars, and just make them even better. And they've got such a great reputation, such a great name. This is only the second time that they've made a motorcycle, and the previous one was with KTM as well. But this is now, it's based off a KTM 1290 Super Duke R Evo, and they've put their own spin on it. I mean, the biggest thing here is that they completely changed the lines in this bike, made it very sort of carbon fiber, lots of carbon fiber accent pieces, lots of angular designs on it, lots of the lines are sort of changed. It's much more aggressive, obviously Brabus written all over it, but they've changed the front end of it in terms of geometry as well a little bit. It just looks awesome. If I can see if I can show you some more pictures here. I mean, just look at this thing. This is absolutely, it's very reminiscent of a bike of the future. If you can remember some of those old futuristic TV programs where they would have motorcycles in the future, this is what it reminds me of. That kind of angular naked bike, all performance, and it just looks insane here. I mean, let's just read some of the specs, shall we? German tuner Brabus has teamed up with KTM to create what it's calling a luxurious naked bike. Where's this come from? Carscoops.com. And it's powered, bike is powered by a 1301cc V-twin engine that makes 177 horsepower. So very similar to the previous bike which I was talking about. And that's at 8,000 RPM. The tuner, the Brabus, are saying they're only going to make 290 of these, and it comes in two colors. It comes in this super black and this stealth gray, and they're going to make 145 of the black and 145 of the gray. Let's have a look here. Yeah, so the carbon fiber elements on this bike, you got the headlight shroud, you got side fairings, it says power domes here, and much more. You've got other parts of the bike which are carbon fiber as well. You got redesigned air scoops, or there are air scoops which are carbon fiber as well, and the frame is all blacked out, and it's got a new front end on the motorcycle which is different from the original KTM as well. So it's got custom foot pegs and a dual exhaust on it as well. That's all custom made as well. So obviously all the tuning of this all the tuning of this bike has come from Brabus, and obviously that lends itself to new exhausts as well from Brabus. Also, this bike, this 1300R edition, also has different types of wheels as well. They got the Brabus own monoblock Z Forge wheels as well, and these are in black, or they call platinum black. These help contribute to the blacked out look. So this is all part of the theme for this bike, this Brabus KTM. You know, you got black bike. I'll have to say that again. You've got a black bike, carbon fiber, it looks very stealthy, and you've got these monoblock Z Forge wheels which are black, and they're just all in keeping with the bike. I mean, it just looks great. It looks awesome. I'm just reading a bit more here. It's got a seat which is re-upholstered with obviously Brabus logos and everything in stitch pattern. I mean, it all looks really nice. It's a heated seat as well, and the black, it's got a black frame, complete the blacked out look. Yeah, so it's yeah, redesigned seat, Brabus insignia, and it's a heated seat as well. So that all looks really nice. It's got this all new semi-active suspension on there with WP Apex as well. It's got 5 rider modes, and it's got Comfort, Street, Sport, Track, and Advanced. You can also put it into an auto mode, and basically the onboard computer will determine which setting to put it into as well. As I say, it's limited to 290 units. 145 will be in the black and 145 will be in the grey. And it's not, the interesting thing here, that this bike is not going to all markets all around the world. It's only going to selected ones, but it doesn't say which markets they'll be, which I think is really interesting. I don't know why that will be the case, but they're also saying here that the prices start at €42,500, which in today's exchange rate is in the region of about 46,000 US dollars. But it could be different to that, obviously, depending on exchange rates. But this does look really, really nice. So there we go. So this is the Brabus. This is the Brabus 1300R special edition, and or the edition 23, and it just looks mean. It looks mean and moody, and it looks just the kind of bike that I would love to ride. Let's put it that way. I mean, I could see myself on that bike, all dressed in black, having a having a tinted visor as well. Yeah, it's almost like I'm the future Darth Vader coming down the road. I mean, sometimes you can overdo it, can't you? You can overdo the black, you can overdo the carbon fiber. And I've got a sneaking feeling if you rode this and you're all dressed in black with a tinted visor, which you kind of need to ride this bike, as it were, you would kind of be overdoing it a little bit. But as I say, from a bike point of view, from a performance point of view, from a naked biker point of view, this is great. This looks really good. And I always like it when you get these speciality companies from outside of motorcycling coming into motorcycling and giving their take on something as well. It's always good to break up the echo chamber a little bit, break up ideas and thinking, or conventional thinking, and come in with something new. So yeah, Cyborg Batman bike. That's it. Yes. Exactly. There is a little bit of that, isn't there? There's the angular, I mean, definitely the black and the angles and the stealthy light kind of lend itself to that. But there we go. So that is the Brabus KTM 1300. Only 290 going to be sold. And it's how much was it again? And it's about 42,000 euros, dollars, pounds, shekels, whatever the price might be. But there we go. If you can get one, if you can afford it, I'm sure you're going to have lots of fun riding a carbon black bike, dressed all in black and looking very mean. What do you think? Right, over to the next one here. So this is... Oh, hold on. What's this one? Right. Oh, no. That was something completely different. I was going to talk about, I don't know why, but I was going to talk about spy balloons. No, the reason I'm going to talk about this, but let me just come on to the next one. This is a final story, just a bit of a light-hearted one, right? Final story. This is from basically the Times, the UK Times. And basically, if you hadn't been aware that around the world, or in the US especially, they've been shooting down these Chinese spy balloons, or weather balloons, so they call it, but they're spy balloons, and they're finding sensors on them and all that sort of stuff, and obviously relaying data. I'm not sure what the end game here is, because if you know, and anybody who knows anything about TikTok, for example, they know that data is being sent back to the Chinese originators of this. So you know, if you want to spy on, you know, people around the world, then they've pretty much done that with TikTok, haven't they? And most people these days are telling everybody what they're doing anyway on social media. Look, you know that I'm doing a live show right now. I'm here, right? I'm here wherever I am here. You can track my IP address, you know where I'm from, right? It's the same with all these guys with TikTok, they know what we do. But they think obviously there's some big spy conspiracy going on with these weather balloons. The only thing I can think of are these weather balloons going over from China, and they think they're spying, you know, is probably spying on tech, spying and copying the tech that's already there. You know, we already know from a motorcycling point of view that the Chinese motorcycle productions are, getting bigger and better, but a lot of their bikes look like Western bikes as well. So, you know, but there we go. Veteran biker. During World War II, Japan used balloons to set fires in the United States. Yes. I don't think there's any indication of that right now, but there's indication of obviously they're being used, they're being sent over, and everything like that. And you know what they're using that for is doing that. Cyborg, is Brabus also doing Mercedes-Benz cars? They also look amazing and sound really good. Yeah, they are great. I'm not exactly sure what there is. I know they do lots of other collaborations, but I'm not sure. TikTok, read the terms of agreement. If you have it on your phone, it allows access to every app you have on the phone, including your banking applications and passwords. There we go. That's exactly it. TikTok, it's one of those things that and I suppose people give away their data a lot more these days, don't they? But there we go. Cyborg, can't satellites do that as well? Yeah, exactly. This is why I'm not 100% sure what these weather balloons would do more than satellite imagery would do. I'm not 100% sure. Well, there's Chinese satellites up there, so surely those Chinese satellites, is there a way that they're not allowed or they're stopped from orbiting over the United States or something? I don't know. Can that be done? I'm not sure that can be done. I don't know. So I'm sure that the thing is, everybody's spying on everybody. There we go. Where is your tinfoil hat? I don't know. I just thought it was a really funny story to say, well, they're shooting down all these, weather balloons. Officially, they're weather balloons, but they're, it's little spy balloons or whatever. But you just think, well, what are you spying on? What you spend? Oh, well, you want to copy another motorcycle, do you? Or do you want to copy another bit of car or something like that? I just think, as you say, a satellite is better, isn't it? I don't know. Unless satellites are prevented from going over US airspace. But I don't know how you would stop that. I have no, unless you got some kind of Star Wars laser kind of, prevention system that's going to stop. I don't know. Actually, no idea. But there we go. Okay, the last story here was MotoGP is just about starting, and they're basically given a little rundown of MotoGP pre-season. They've been doing all the testing. It's a pre-season test in Sepang. MotoGP got its first taste of what to expect in 2023 when the paddock convened in Sepang for its first of two pre-season tests last weekend. Here's what we learned. So yeah, they're saying Ducati looking really, really good here as well. What else? Yeah, Marini and Bagnaia, just doing great in there. Things here. Yeah, Marquez is saying he's adopted whatever to make his Honda ride a lot better. I do love that MotoGP and World Superbikes and things like that. I can't say I like watching the highlights, and sometimes I'll watch them live as well. But I've got to say, I'm also interested in the tech that they've got on these bikes and everything like that. I did a story about Ducati, how they basically they won the championship last year, but they also, the way they're using AI into their development, and also VR sort of stuff as well, and lots of high-tech stuff that is kind of introduced, and this all comes fed down from Formula One as well. So they've brought that, Ducati, Ferrari, they kind of come in as well. Not that Ducati are with Ferrari, but what I'm saying is they've kind of drawn down from that sort of world. Let's say like a lot of the other teams are starting to now. And they're using different technologies to try and get, eke out a little bit better. And not only on track times in terms of the way riders are, pushing the bikes, but also in the development of the bikes as well, and the technology on these bikes as well. So it's just, excellent. Just excellent. I'm really excited. I mean, it actually starts in a couple of weeks, isn't it? 2-3 weeks, isn't it? Is it mid-March, something? MotoGP, something like that. But there we go. Right, so that's it. That is, I should have shown you the website, really, shouldn't I? This is from autosport.com if you want to go and read the article. Quite a nice little article here. Just breaks down what they've found out so far as well. But there we go. That is the story of today. That's what I've been doing. Thanks for the chat. Thanks for coming in, and just playing your part and doing your stuff. You can always check out all the socials. All the stories from the website will always be always be shared there as well, so you could always catch up with that. You can subscribe, tell your friends. I mean, the only way this channel grows is just by people, you know, spreading the word, really, and just telling your friends and getting other people to watch as well, especially the live shows. The live shows are really about word of mouth, really. It's not going to be about you know, hitting any algorithm or hitting anything that YouTube are going to push this thing. It is really about, you know, people word of mouth and a different type of YouTube experience, a different type of, you know, viewing experience as well. So as I say, it is, I do call it a radio podcast thing. It's a little bit podcasty, it's a little bit radio show, and that sort of stuff as well. There we go. Let's get back to there. There we go. Right. So unless there's any more comments, Cyborg, thank you. Bit to the island, yeah. Veteran Bike Islandman TT videos as well. Yeah, I think they've some of the teams are already starting to come out with a bit of information on the TT, gearing up towards the TT. Obviously, it doesn't help. It certainly doesn't help a lot that the all the Northern Ireland racing has been cancelled this year, where a lot of the teams would be testing out or certainly trying to go there and race, no doubt. But they're always gearing up towards the TT. So now they've lost that. It would be interesting to see how that affects preparations for the TT as well. TT is just insane. There are two races that I absolutely love. The Dakar of motorcycles especially, but all the disciplines in the Dakar, which I absolutely love, and the TT. If in terms of motorsport, those are my go-to two types. I think I talked about all the different types of motorsports I really like the other day, but those are my top two, without question. Just of pure insanity. They're the insanity of them all. But anyway, listen, that's what's been in the news. This is up-to-date stuff. A lot of this has literally just come out about, well, an hour before I started the show, so it's literally just coming out now. I'll keep on checking I'll keep on checking all the news feeds the next couple of days if there's new bikes coming out, that kind of thing. I'll make those videos or those segments about the KTM and also the the Buell Valentines bike. I'll put those out as separate little videos as well. I'll basically edit out what I've just said here, and away we go. So those will come out. If you see them, you can watch them again. That'd be great. If not, then you'll know exactly what I've already just been talking about. But anyway, listen, I hope you have the rest of a great morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night wherever you are in the world. All I can say, it's been emotional, and I'll catch you again very soon. Ta-da.